Chair of the ARPA committee. If I could be inserted tonight somewhere before unfinished business, your choice.
Does it require, what requires select board action? Do we do it under boards, committees, and commissions, or is it something different?
That's where I normally am, and if I could be earlier, that's what I'm asking.
Okay.
Hopefully before your unfinished business tonight.
Before unfinished business? How do we handle that?
Just put it on a communication. I mean, that's what you're here for. You can, okay, fine. Yeah, no, you're fine.
That's fine. So before we get going, I have a couple of housekeeping things. Has everybody signed in that plans to speak tonight? We need to keep the chatter to a minimum if we can. Those things pick up every word spoken. Spoken into. If you do plan to speak, please be recognized by the chair. State your name and go from there on that. And if you're a taxpayer and an employee, please state which you're speaking as at that time. That being said, acceptance of the minutes, July 13th, 2022.
I'll move that we accept the minutes on Wednesday, July 13th.
I have a point on the minutes.
Yep.
Second page.
Hold on. So we'll get to discussion once we. So motion's been made and seconded to approve the minutes of July 13th, 2022. Any discussion? John?
Untitled Windmill Hill Road South, second page, a third of the way down, it's about the 15th line. Heather Taylor said she and other neighbors appreciated what Mr. Crocker did conserving lands. So it's put in as Mr. Taylor.
Okay, yep. That's all. All right, so we have an adjustment. How do we handle the adjustment? Do we
Just, we'll approve the minutes with that correction. We'll put it in here.
okay? So we have a motion. So made and seconded to approve the minutes with correction. Page 2, a third of the way down. Mr. Taylor was actually Mr. Crocker. Anything else? Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nice have it. Thanks. Communications and public comments. Paul?
That's me.
Sure.
Paul Bannock, ARPA committee chair. Some things you may have already heard, so if you have, just let me go through it and that'll be it. We are in the Gazette for our meeting now. I was in touch with Donna a week ago, so we will appear in the Gazette regularly now for a once a month meeting on the third Wednesday of each month. So between the two select board meetings. And I may, if I get time, get it in the shopper as well. I have not done that yet. You may or may not have heard that the village monies that was awarded by ARPA to the village of Westminster is now no longer ours. We have to send it back. And the short version, or the reason for that, is that the village doesn't have an operating budget, and the ARPA committee monies were based on a 75% assessment of budget. So the village doesn't have a budget, hasn't had a budget. When they figured that out, they said, yeah, send it back. I get that pretty good. Yeah, okay.
Money's been sent back.
And I just learned tonight that some has, or all has already been.
We had to send the whole 40.
Okay. Just as a side note to that, the Jim Mento, who's also on the committee, is involved in the village committee as well, and they are in current discussions to disband the village district because they don't have an operating budget, and so that we the town are not put in a position again where we might get awarded for something for the village, but we're not eligible because there is an operation anymore. Pauline is back in as an active member. She brought in a pretty good suggestion for us the other night about postcards to be sent out to try and get some public opinion or public involvement. And she did a little bit of footwork on the cost. She took the last postcards that were sent out for a different reason, and then she added 25% to that, I believe, as a rough estimate of what it might cost this time around to generate those postcards and mail them out at around $1,100, I believe, Pauline. 1,193 or 1,093. She's giving me a thumbs up. You guys can have the discussion between yourselves if you want to approve, pay for that, and we'll figure out the content for the cards after that. I think it's a great idea because we still have zero input from the public, and maybe this would spark it. Maybe this would get people to at least ask what we're doing or their own ideas after they understand the guidelines that we work within. It came to my awareness during the meeting also that Sevka is kind of still banging on the ARPA committee's door, but not coming to the ARPA committee. Just to set the record straight from the committee's point of view, we made a decision back in the spring or even the late winter when the new director of Sevka called and approached us and said, hey, I heard that you got this money. You know, we're a business within your town. We hire people. We've been here a long time. How about giving us some money because we need some. He didn't really detail what they needed it for. We talked about it some, pretty quickly came to a decision that he really wasn't eligible for his request if we stick to the guidelines, and we will stick to the guidelines that we operated and adopted. You actually finally adopted. It would also set precedents for future requests from other entities that still would not be eligible. So we gave them a pretty firm no, that we would not advise the select board that he should be approved for any of that money. We can have further discussions about that between the committee and the board if you'd like to. It just came to my attention that he's still kind of in the wind, maybe still asking. I'm not quite sure. And we also had a brief discussion amongst ourselves at the last meeting about, is there a need for a monthly meeting? Because we aren't getting much, we're not getting any input at all. So we don't have any material to put on the table and push around and, you know, hash up and say, okay, maybe we'll do this. We're really just kind of discussing amongst ourselves. And we've had a few proposals come in, a few things have already been approved, you know that. We just don't have any new material to work with. So we're looking for a way to bring in some new material to push up to the select board as well. That would be the intent behind the postcards as a first method to do that. And do you want to speak quickly about East Putney, or you want to leave that for another night?
We'll leave it. And so that's all important.
Then that's all I have for this evening.
All right. Thanks, Paul. Anything else? Communications and public comments?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So it's not on the agenda tonight, but for September 14th, which should be our first meeting, I believe, in September, we should have everything cobbled together for the personnel policy review, HR policy review, conflict of interest policy review, procurement policy review, and every policy, including contractual employee and contractual contracts that are made, reviewing the language, Mr. Chair, and making sure that there is an appropriate up-to-date language that addresses the key aspects of all of those, especially conduct. This is what we've discussed, and I can assure you I'll have it ready by the 14th of September for the public to review and get their comments. This is something we started from day one, and I've actually done some considerable work on it over the last several weeks. But it's not on the agenda tonight because I think it'd be best prepared for early business in the fall.
Okay. Anything else? Communications and public comments? All right. Moving on, we're going to go to unfinished business. A, Route 121 bridge discussion. I guess I wanted to have this more as a informational type of meeting, and also to kind of hear it from the horse's mouth, so to speak, of timeline. We approved as a board the option 2, I think it was, that we were given last meeting. But that bridge affects not just our community, so that's where we're at. If anybody would like to speak to that. We had a question last meeting about a weight restriction possibly on it right now. I have the email back from, I believe, JB to Chuck that said the bridge inspection and load grading section, based on the recent inspection, there was no recommendation for a load post at this time. So that answers that question. I've fielded quite a few calls on a temporary bridge. That decision was made, I would guess, years ago, that wasn't going to be an option, but it was also based on 60-day closure, so.
It was an option we decided.
No, it was.
Yeah,
Right.
So that's my question would be, why can't we go back and ask? So it's gonna cost us, a town, $100,000 at the time. We thought for 2 months, that was a lot of money, but if it's 2 years, we should actually go back to see if that's another option.
It's gonna be more than $100,000 now.
It could be, I'm not saying.
And I don't know, that was before my time, so I guess if JB wants to speak to that, or Mike, or anybody.
I wasn't involved in the scoping of this project. We have a scoping section that went through all of that, and I think they came and gave a presentation.
Could you back up 1 second? Could you just state your name?
Oh, I'm sorry.
And,
Yeah. JB McCarthy, I'm a project manager with
Thank you.
Structures Design. This project was scoped a few years ago. I think in 2019 there was a meeting here. I was not assigned to the project at that time yet. So went through the scoping, and the decision with the town was to replace the deck on this bridge and to close the bridge, and I guess the town agreed to 60 days, which was about as tight as we could get it to work. And so I think they looked at it. Maybe one option was a temporary bridge on one side or the other, but it probably would have gone outside the right of way or needed utility relocations, and certainly much more environmental study and permits to secure. And all that takes design time and a cost. We just put in a temporary bridge on a project in Montpelier. It was 100 foot long, and it was $600,000.
This is 200,
This is a little longer.
205, am I wrong, or
It's about 220.
220? Okay.
Yeah. So, it's a lot of money for even one construction season. So, in doing that, the percentage of town share of the town has right now is 2.5%. That's because you're closing the road and it's a rehabilitation. So if you put a temporary bridge in, there's a cost of the temporary plus your percentage will go up to 5%. Still get a break because you're doing a rehabilitation. So that's kind of the trade-off there. And time, we have no plans for a temporary. We have no alignment. We have no design.
I'm looking at it from cost and time frame as well. That would basically stop the project until.
Right, and it becomes $1 million project. If you figure in your $600,000.
I was assuming it was, at the time, that 100,000 they gave us was our share for the temporary bridge. And we thought about it. We did, because we had a lot of people, how's the school buses get through, how's all this get through, but when they narrowed it down to just 2 months, we said, well, it's not worth it, and we took a lot of heat for it, to be honest with you. And now it's 2 years or whatever, and you're gonna go up, even if it costs the town 200,000, we should at least see if it's an option to tell the voters that if he's saying it's not an option, then that's what we tell the voters. It wasn't an option, but I think as a select board, we should at least ask if it is an option, that's all.
I
If
think
it's not feasible, doesn't sound like it's feasible, but at least we gotta ask. If he's saying it's not possible, then that's our answer.
Well, anything is possible if you're willing to pay for it. And I don't know if that is what we're willing to do. I mean, I get it, it's an inconvenience for everybody, some more than others, but it's definitely inconvenient.
If they came back, if they came back to us, let me ask you, if they came back to us and that, I thought it was at least before 2019, and they told us our cost, does that mean that somebody actually did lay out a temporary bridge?
Very, very roughly. I mean, there's utility poles on one side, they probably put it on the other side.
Yeah.
There's the old abutment for the previous bridge is right there. And that's,
They did describe it, yeah, it was gonna go to the east side of it. Yeah, they did,
yeah,
Well,
it's,
I don't think it would have gone to the east side, that would have been in that house.
no, I mean, the east side would be towards, with the bridge, the old bridge abutment is on the left side if you're
Right.
into town. Right, that side.
As I recall the presentation too, there were potential conflicts with artifacts.
Yep.
I'm sure there's archaeology all around this.
Yeah, they said if we dug a hole, you're right.
Yeah, there's a myriad of other complications which would make that project unlikely.
Chuck, do you have something?
Chuck Lawrence, road foreman this time. Yeah, 3 years ago, we went to Rockingham, we had a big presentation, I went with Russ, Mark had just gotten done. And that was the big worry, is that if they got digging around and found so much as a chicken bone, they're shutting it down and they're gonna dig. And that could take, so now, my fear is, seeing the condition the bridge is in right now, so what happens? Okay, so now they do find something, trying to put in a temporary bridge and go, damn, we're gonna shut this down for 5 years. This is all hypothetical, but let's say that happens. Is that bridge gonna end up having to be closed completely? So you don't have your temporary, and now you don't have the bridge, because you decided you wanted it temporary. I don't know, not a gamble I would want to take, but I'm just throwing it out there. If that's hypothetically, that could happen, and it has in other places.
We took that into consideration last time too.
Yep.
It's just a more fact that if it's not even a choice, then we're ending the conversation. I guess trust me, I've taken a lot of heat about it because, 2 months people were upset, but I don't know how we're gonna handle it.
You're gonna be mad, but that's
Well, yeah.
how it is. I
Okay.
mean,
Jason, did you have something?
Yeah, Jason Smith, Westminster. Lived here quite a long time. This is not the first time a bridge has had to be closed. The one going across the river to Walpole was closed for years. Violet's Bridge down in Bellas Falls is still closed, okay? Is it gonna be a little painful? Yes, there are many routes around said bridge. For the town to even entertain spending hundreds of thousands, possibly $1 million on a temporary bridge to convenience someone to drive an extra 5 minutes is ridiculous. Bite the bullet. The longer we delay getting the work done, the longer this whole thing's hanging out in the air.
Peter?
Peter Golick, Rockingham Select Board Chair. Our primary concerns is the length of time. If they're talking 12 to 18 months. Does that include the design time, or is that just the build time? Are you gonna close the bridge shortly, say in the winter time, and just have nothing there? I mean, to me, it doesn't make any sense. If you're not ready to construct anything, why would you take the bridge out instead of leaving it up and let traffic go over it until you're ready to do your construction, then close it, then go around that way? You're gonna have less time for the detour, because that's a big thing. We're getting calls right now, emails from the school department. I don't know why they're calling us, but they're calling the school department's calling us and asking us what's going on with the bridge. I'm trying to refer them to you guys, because you guys got to make the decisions, not ours. And the other thing a lot of people don't understand is that's a town road. 121 is a town highway, and all the maintenance that goes onto those roads is on the town shoulders. State aid helps, but it's all on the town. A lot of people think it's a state bridge, and it's not. So that's another thing that has to come into consideration. The other thing on our point is emergency services. That's a long detour going around either way, no matter if you go up Pleasant Valley Road, heart attack, 5 minutes, you're dead. You don't get there in time.
Well, that was,
So, I mean,
that's why I asked Cole to be here, because I had heard this same question about emergency services. And I know we got a really good crew, so does Rockingham, but I didn't want to put words in anybody's mouth, so.
So I think that's gonna take a little coordination between Chuck and you guys and our board, and and Andy up there in the town, because, I mean, plowing is, we
You're
stopped,
going,
at the tomb over there on 121.
Yeah.
Beyond, and then, so now you gotta go all back around and start
true.
back around, down 120, and then pick up where the turnaround is at the town line and finish out that way. Then where do you put the snow? Are you gonna push it over the bank? There's not much room there to plow the snow all through 121.
Yeah, well, some of
Before,
that.
it was just a straight through shot, that's just plow on the
Right.
side. But
So we had also heard too that possibly start now and do demo and then finish in the spring, possibly wait. So I don't know, it's all hearsay on my end. I never heard either one. So I guess that we were looking for some clarification on that too. But that's a good point, Peter. I didn't give the winner a thought, but I'm sure they can,
We've already gone.
they can work it out.
I think that was the big issue I heard, is, don't get me wrong, I'm never for a temporary bridge. But why are we starting if we don't have everything there? Why don't we wait to start on the bridge when we're ready to start on the bridge, when all the beams are there and everything's there? To start it, and then the voters to see we started, then we stopped in the middle of it and we're waiting for something, doesn't seem like it's a very good idea.
What's that?
Yes.
That's why they're good.
A follow-up on that too is that the Route 5 bridge up there going over the railroad, going up towards Missing Link, they're only talking 60-day replacement on that one. It's probably about half the size of what we're doing here, maybe 70 feet, I think. They're only talking 60 days to put that one, because again, a precast bridge made. So I assume that's probably what they're thinking here, because on Bellas Falls on the Depot Street Bridge, that's what they're doing there. They're putting a precast bridge in and they're gonna put it on in sections. So,
I have had that question asked too, why we couldn't do that. And I don't build bridges, so I don't know. But
I don't either, but I work for construction, so I know.
Yeah.
Both.
yeah.
So, but I know that's a question for this gentleman here, I guess. What's their design? He may not even know that at this point either. I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot.
No, that's fine. Happened before. Just to say where we're at right now. So, we had planned to rehabilitate this bridge, and all indications was that structural steel out there was in good enough shape to do that. There's some areas on the bottom, that type of thing, where there's pack rust, and when the contractor got out there, started digging around underneath the concrete deck where the deck sits on the girder. I think they were looking, I think they were looking for, we were gonna weld shear connectors on top of that to put the new deck, combine it with the steel, it makes a stronger bridge. They kept digging and found no good steel there, except for portions of it. And my first question to the design consultant that we had that did the design on this was, can we live without that top plate, which was turned into just pieces of metal? And even though it was only 5/16 of an inch thick, they said we couldn't. So that's when we put the job on hold and suspended it, and met with the town and came down here and decided what can we do. And the decision was, those girders are 80 years old. Maybe it's time to get rid of them. Plus, it's what's termed a two-girder system. There's two main girders that span out across with other framing in between. And it's non-redundant, meaning that failure of any one of those members could cause failure of the bridge. So we decided that the decision was made to replace the structural steel with continuous beams. And we've got a code in, a scope of work with our design consultant to do that right now. The question is, right now, what do we do with the substructures? There's two abutments on each side and two piers. And the piers are just a frame, so they're hollow in the middle. So you can't just put, we were going to replace this two-girder system with a five-girder system. You can't put beams out there and load that pier with what's out there today. And we've discussed with the town about we could infill it with concrete and make it integral, and then we could just run the steel across. It's probably the simplest thing to do. We haven't talked to the contractor about it. Decision was made right now to retain Renault Construction to finish this project. So the next step is our consultant is doing some estimates for that. The other option is to put what is called a straddle beam in, which will run from the ends of each pier and distribute the loads to the ends, because that's what those piers were designed to take. That's how they were designed to work. Was the loads were going to sit on the ends of the piers because there was only 2 girders really that ran all the way across. So that design is somewhat complex, mainly because of the skew of this bridge. It's on an angle, it's not square. There's a lot of torsion and things that go on. So if it was my bridge, I would fill it in with concrete and just run girders all the way across and go from there. And we don't have, all the design work we've done to date for the deck, the approaches, everything else, nothing changes when we do that.
Right.
So it's not, you know, we're not redesigning the whole project, it's just we're redesigning the beams that support the deck and some work on the substructures. You know, our next, once we get some estimates and a scope more defined and some quantities, our step would be to sit down with Mike and get some costs and get a schedule. I don't think, you know, until we tell them what we want to do is can't get a schedule, nail it down pretty tight. One pier would be easy to work on. It's in the drive, basically. The other pier's in the water, but that pier's on ledge. But there's some other work to do there to make it integral and to tie it all together. That's going to be another permit to get out, depending on how the contractor wants to get out there to get to that pier. So there's just still some things up in the air, but our consultant is going to get to go ahead to start doing some of this preliminary design work right now, unless the town wants us to stop and go back and look at temporary bridges and all this other thing. I think the job as just described can be built in a year. I don't think we need to start this fall and take the bridge apart. We aren't going to have, we're going to have.
A year or one construction season?
Right.
Like
April to October.
Well, that's what I'm asking. Are you talking about a January to December or a construction season in the?
I think April through October.
Really?
And then, you know, but we have to talk to the contractor. Usually, you know, this is kind of the opposite way we do things. We already have a contractor in this case, and we work with them on a schedule. I'm sure they have some opinions about it. We need to get if we're going to do this one option, we need to get a permit to work in the stream. We don't have a permit. We weren't working in the stream at all in the original version. So we've already met with our in-house people that do the permitting and don't see a big issue with that. But that, you know, that's something we could get done over the winter. Our consultant said we could have the structural steel design done by the middle of September. So we could hand it to the contractor and he could get an order in. And I'm told, when we first met when this problem blew up, steel delivery was slowed right down because of the pandemic. 14 months is what the issue was. I'm told now that it's going to get, and these guys can tell us more better than I can, that it's going to be back to the more normal time frame, which is about 5 to 6 months. So if we get them some plans in September, we could easily have that steel by next June. And so there's a lot of scheduled things and things to work out for time frame, but
that sounds a lot more promising.
that's kind of where we are right now. But we have
whether it's realistic or not, I guess, are two different stories. But
I mean, we do design manage a project, but I don't manage a construction contract. We have a construction section that works with Mike and the contractor. So they have control of that contract and when they start, when we stop, and all those things. So.
I guess the observation, thank you for your synopsis, briefly. The observation is, what is the minimum amount of time realistically we can get to keep the, when you start the construction to completion, last minute we can wait till before we deconstruct the old bridge and it's out. And then the completion time from start to finish, once it's out, for you to get that job done. That's really, I think, the issue that will resolve everything. What you just said to me, from April to October, is it possible, is it reasonable to expect that the bridge is not deconstructed, let's say, until March?
Yeah, you probably do start in March.
Okay.
You probably can't, we have restrictions on getting into a stream to do work. It's usually June. Sometimes you can get a waiver on that. I don't know about the situation in that river, at that location. Because we weren't, the original project, we were not in the water, so. But, you know, we receive those quite often, so.
Thank you.
That sounds a lot better. I guess my concern too is, you said, once you start it, once you start working, if they see you there working every day, even if it takes a whole fiscal year, that's better than to start it and say, oh, now they're gone because we gotta wait for the steel, we gotta wait for something like that, and nobody's working on the bridge. So, yeah, we could narrow it down to like, okay, once they start, they can continue because they're not waiting for anything. Then I think we can live with it. We got no other choice.
I'm sure Mike can speak about the schedule. I mean,
Yeah.
you're contractors and done this work before, so.
Yeah, no, and I, Mike would know anyway from Renault Brothers Construction. I mean, I don't know, what was the date we held up the project? You remember, Al? Middle of June, so you got July, August, September. You got 3 months to have a design. A design is about 1/10 of the work. So I don't see how we would get that done in one construction season, you know? I mean, and I've had this conversation before, the designers think that the work part is easy, and us builders think that the design part is the easy part, you know? But I can see what you're saying. We could delay the demo on that for a while, but if you wait till construction season, start the demo, you're not gonna have that done in one construction season. Not with our crew anyway. I mean, you could probably, if you try to shorten that project up into that tight of a schedule, then you're talking nights, weekends. I mean, the cost of that just goes to the roof. The difference between, regular mail and overnight mail, it's 2 or 3 times the cost. So I haven't seen the design. I couldn't even speculate on the amount of time, it would take.
Thank you.
Thanks for being honest.
Huh?
I said, thank you for being honest.
That's all I can say. Really, I mean, I haven't seen the design. I haven't. I don't know when the schedule for what steel is. I mean, yeah, they talk about the pandemic, things are gonna back off, but it certainly hasn't been any easier to find any help. It seems like, I don't know where all the help went. It just having a harder and harder time finding help. I hope that part changes, but,
Maybe you can hire all the people that can't cross the bridge to get to their other job, and maybe you can hire them and work with it.
yeah. There you go.
So Mike, how early would you have to start? You started March 15th to demo that bridge. And you had the steel ordered in September here.
I mean,
Could you get it done in 2023?
you really think they're gonna be able to have me an order to be able to order steel in September?
This is what oh yeah,
I mean, I'm just being honest with
Yeah.
you.
it's just a,
They've been saying a whole bunch of things about when we're gonna do this, when we're gonna do that, and I haven't seen it come through yet.
Yeah. It's a 5 girder framing plan. It's really, it's big, 3 sheets of details. It's really not much for them to do, so.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying, it doesn't seem like that much to me. I mean, I think it could have been done already myself, but, I'm not there. I don't know what all the challenges of the design are. I mean, it's like somebody else just standing on the side work, guessing what it's gonna take, just like them guessing how long it's gonna take me to build it, because they write down 90 days. They don't really realize what we have to do to go to. I mean, we went to heck to try to get this thing done, to set up and everything, to get the project done in the allowed time, and then we were just like cut off. And really, JB, I haven't had much communication with anybody.
Yeah.
I had one phone call. You know, I've been a little frustrated because I don't know what to do with the crews. I don't, I mean, it's like, are they gonna, do I schedule stuff for next year? Do we, we gotta have everything out on the table before we can actually make decisions. If I had plans and I told you I could do it, I would do everything in my power to do it. But, just trying to speculate, I mean, Al could talk to that. I mean, what we're been waiting for and
Our construction section, they're not here, but they're waiting for us to give them a plan to speak with the contractor. So, and I've spent the last few weeks getting an agreement with our design firm and getting a scope and a cost. And that's being sent to them this week. And they're gonna get it, and they're gonna sign it, and then they're gonna start.
Yeah.
So, and I said, well, and then we talked about how soon could we have a design, and said middle of September. I said, that's great, but it's not bad. And then we'd have that's just the steel design. The other design, depending on what we do with the piers, we settled on December. So, that's where it's at right now. So,
but there's no problem with starting in March. I mean, I would say if we start in March, I mean, of course, you don't know the weather, but, if we start, if the roads are all snow covered and everything, go out there and try to, get detours in and, shift everybody around, that might be tough, but if we had an early spring, we go out there and jam right at it, but it would be awful risky to me, I don't know, to say we're gonna build that whole bridge in one construction season. I don't know if I'd be willing to sign that contract. Yeah. To be honest with you. Just the time, just trying to do too much.
Yeah.
And too little, and then everybody's just scurrying, and, I mean, I don't know. To me,
If we could,
fast is not always the best,
like, if we could get, I would say you're the final say in this whole thing, because you're the one to do it. If we could at least tell the people in Westminster, Rockingham, that there's a date that you finally come to, and let's say it is March 15th, that the bridge will, so that everybody knows ahead of time, the bridge come March 15th, it's gonna be started on, it's gonna be closed down, because that's the question of what's going on.
Yeah.
And we would just say, we don't know if it's gonna be a season or a year and a half, but at least we can let everybody know when it's gonna get started. Yeah. And to start and stop and not do anything, I think this is not smart. But if everything gets together by March, I think that's what we gotta live with.
And I could see, people's point, because I kind of looked at it with blinders. I'm like, when I talked to the road woman, I said, hey, let's get this thing all demoed, get it all ready. When they got the plan there was a couple of stubs sticking out of the ground, and they give us some paper, we could start getting going, but, just because I thought that, the route around it was not really gonna be too bad, and it was good for me because I had time in my schedule to do it, I mean, it's like, I know what you're saying, that, well, we're inconvenienced this, but I mean, it's like going to the dentist, I gotta wait till he's got time in his schedule. Going to the doctor, you gotta wait till they, I mean, it's like, okay, so you're saying the opposite. We don't care about your schedule, we want it done here and here, and that makes it tough for me to commit. You see what I'm saying? So, I mean, I really can't say 100% for sure what the time frame would be till I see what the plan is, what other stuff we've got on the books, you know, that I've already promised to do in that amount of time. I mean, I could be scrambling 2 times. I'm already scrambling to get ready. I mean, I gave my whole summer up to get ready for this. You know what I mean? In a way you can understand, you know, if you got to change a seal in an engine, you may have to tear that whole engine part to change a $2 seal. It's all in the prep work and everything to get all ready for it. Just for us to line up all our contractors and get bridge railing fabricated and get the rebar, it took all that prep work, and now we're just stopping and then say, okay, everybody wait till we're ready to go again, you know? I mean, it's hard, and I'm not trying to be a downer about it, but this has been really hard on Renault's construction, dealing with this.
I sympathize, I would say, yeah. God's question, same thing, you did have to schedule yourself for so many people to do this for this period of time. Now, you got to scramble, go find something else, and now the time you come back, you might have had something else scheduled, so. Yeah, I do sympathize with you. It's like you fixing your roof, and all of a sudden you realize you can't fix the roof, and you gotta take the roof out, you gotta move out.
Yeah.
So none of this was our plan or your.
No, and believe me, I'm trying to be a good sport about the whole thing, you know, I really am. And I want to give these guys opportunity. I know JB's got all kinds of rules he's got to follow, and the wheels of the government turn pretty slow, and, you know, and it's hampering you, you know? I mean, I'm sure if you and I could have just sat down, JB, we could have figured this thing right out. We've been back building in 2 days, you know? I mean, that's the way I feel anyway, you know? I mean, the state used to do all their own design work and everything. I don't know what the heck's happened, you know? They sub everything out. They don't do it.
People.
Yeah, so the
Same story.
contractors are in the same boat, you know? So I mean, to just start putting in these short durations is not helping the
I mean,
project.
if we could have a design, this is a rather simple design, you could have it done next week.
Yeah.
And give you the sheets.
Yeah.
But won't see the steel till, you know, January, so that doesn't do anybody good.
I'm not sure when I could actually, if I could actually place an order, you know, I may be able to negotiate something or, you know, work with a couple of my suppliers. But I mean, you know, if you call up and say, hey, when can you build steel? They're just gonna give you a date that's just convenient. If you call them back up and say, hey, we're really in a pickle here. Is there any, you know, I've been buying steel for you a lot of years. Do you see any way you could help me out to get this steel here, you know, to help the town out? Well, they probably could look at things a little bit different, and maybe we could improve on that. All I'm saying.
Appreciate very much, though, you guys came, put it in the record, and it really shows it what the reality of the whole process is. This is not an easy process. It's not something that we should be rushing. It was just a question that was fairly asked, you know, what if we could, what would that look like? And I think both of you, thank you very much, have clearly stated that this is not an easy thing to do, and you want to do it the right way. And I really appreciate your expertise, both of you.
I wanted to hear right from you instead of read about it in the paper, which isn't always the most accurate.
Thank you.
Thank you for being honest.
You had something, Chuck, I had Chuck first. Chuck, did you have anything?
Chuck Lawrence, taxpayer, town of Westminster. JB, if something happens that Renault Brothers Construction cannot do this job and you have to put it back out to bid, what are we talking about for a setback? If we have to redo that whole process?
Yeah, we develop the new plans, re-advertise it, and, you know, December, January, have a contractor in March and be at the same point that we might. We're not gonna gain anything, and it's good. We have to get it back into our schedule and contract administration and all that, so. I would rather not do that, because I have enough other work.
No, I'm not saying that was a good idea. I was just curious if that would set it back more. I have another question.
I'll just say one thing, Mike may say, I don't want, he may see this plan and say, and this work he's got, I don't want it.
That's what I mean, where would we
Well, that
stand
isn't my
that way?
intent.
I
mean,
understand,
I'm in
I
the,
understand.
you know, we're in the bridge business, and I'm gonna do everything I can, but if it gets to be expectations that I don't think I can meet, you know, I'm not gonna, I don't wanna promise something I can't deliver, you know?
My concern is that Mike says I can't do it this amount of time. This isn't right, I can't do the right kind of job in this amount of time. It goes back out to bid, another contractor steps in and says, sure, we'll do it. And we're not gonna get the same product, because the timeline is unrealistic, is my concern as a taxpayer.
I just want to say one more thing. When we meet, we'll have something in September, and I would envision we'd meet with our construction people and Mike and say, this is what we got, and we'll have enough of the, whatever we're gonna do with the piers and abutments for concrete work, and say, give us a schedule. And you can place an order for the steel, because it's all done, and you can give us a schedule for demolition, and, because you're gonna do that anyway, you're gonna have to give them a schedule, right? And they're gonna have to do it, and a cost, and we'll move forward from there. So we could have some pretty good idea in September. And maybe I could push those guys to get us something sooner, but that's like, you know, a couple weeks after Labor Day, so that's, it's really just, it's August 1st now, basically, so I think that's kind of where we're headed with this. And
I think that'll work.
if we have to try to open up the construction season next year, and to get like a chance for a schedule that will work and work for the town, rather than, you know, shutting it down right now and tearing that bridge out now, that would be a big help, but not to the people of the area here, so.
If you, early in the spring you start, it only makes your season longer, and that's why I said, here we are already in August. There's not much left, so if we start tearing apart, we head into winter, and then all of a sudden you know, sitting there not, so that's what my whole goal was. If you could start early in the spring.
I think we could demo.
It would just look a lot, you know. I appreciate it, because I do know, like I said, you sacrificed, and you were all planning to go do this, and then all of a sudden you're not. It wasn't our plan either.
No, I'm not blaming anybody.
Peter?
My question was somewhere along the line, as Chuck's there. Usually when the project changes from, like this one's gone from a rehab now to a complete rebuild, that automatically triggers a rebid. Mike decided, no offense to Mike, I don't want to upset the applicant here, but Mike's got the right point, that, you know, state is the one that's really dragging on this whole deal, because the minute that bridge changed, the light bulb should have gone on somebody's head, and they said, we're gonna go from a rehab, just a deck rehab now, to a complete rebuild of that bridge. So automatically, that, to me, in the past, my history, our history, the 26 years I've been in construction, that automatically is to trigger a rebid. They automatically just started to redo the whole process again. And if the same people bid, all the better, but, you know, again, Chuck has a point, you know, if it gets to a point that Mike, as Chuck said, Mike can't do the job, or it doesn't, you know, it can't meet the expectation, now you're even further back.
Right.
So, it's a tough place you're in, I know that.
I'd like to not see it go to a rebid. I think Mike's been more than gracious with everything. So is JV, really. I mean, we just want to be open and know what's going on, and let other towns know what's going on, so we can plan for it, you know?
Technical question on our half, do we need, if you two get together and you come back in September and say, okay, there's no delay, wait for us to sign anything or to an agreement, or is it, I don't want us to say, well, you've been waiting for us to get together to give you the final approval.
If you need a special meeting, we'll have a special meeting.
I guess that's my point. If you get to a point.
It's just down to money. That's all.
I was gonna sell to that.
All right. I mean, it's gonna be an estimate. It's gonna be more than an estimate, because it's gonna be a quote.
Yeah.
We already have contractors. We're kind of working,
Yeah.
we're kind of working a little differently than we normally set a contract date, begin and end, and whoever wants to bid on it can meet those dates, does. If you can't, because you've got too much work, you won't bid on it.
Yeah.
Well, we have a contractor here, and what Mike's talking about with dates and availability and be able to get the work done is real, so.
Yeah, that'd be good to do it.
we have to, you know, got to tell them what we want first.
So we're really we're on a holding pattern right now until we get more information from the state to Mike, and then we can proceed as we go. That's the way I see it at this point.
I mean, like I said, it's, come December, we kind of need to know how much, because we do our budget. Obviously, we're gonna have to put a chunk of money into the bridge for the following fiscal year. That's the only time that we're gonna have a discussion, like, we thought it was gonna be 50, now it's gonna be 250, obviously, but being the fact that we wouldn't make that decision at the end of December, whatever you need, the quickest way we need to do it was just
We'll get it, we'll get it done.
We'll have estimates, pretty good estimates well before that. Yeah.
Okay. Paul,
I just have a final comment after hearing all of this and understanding that the contractor's been put out the anxieties about road closures and the inconveniences. I have all the faith in the world in our fire departments, our mutual aid system, our road foremans, our highway departments. I know that they will all come together and get us through this. I hope that other people who have already reached anxiety levels understand that. So there's a lot going on here. And this company is willing to stay with us. They're not walking out the door on us. I certainly don't want to see any kind of gun put to its head after all that. So thank you for your patience is what I'm saying.
it's not a lot different than any other.
Around.
It's not a lot different than any other crappy situation. It will pass.
Nobody asked us
It'll
about
not be
Route
fun in the
12.
beginning, but it will pass and we'll move on. So,
Route 12 didn't affect everybody, but it affected a lot of people and a lot of businesses, and we made it through that.
so anything else on 121 at this time? Thank you guys for showing up. Cole?
Paul Streeter, Westminster Fire Chief. As far as emergency services for Westminster, it really is not gonna affect us a whole lot. Especially where we are right here in the village. Yes, it's about 4 miles longer for the ambulance to get to the other side of the bridge. But as far as we're concerned, no.
Okay.
Let us know when it's gonna be closed, that's all we need.
All right, thank you. Anything else? Thank you guys for coming, and we really appreciate it. And if you can just keep us in the loop as best you can, then we can pass information on to other towns and whatnot as it comes in.
We'll look forward to the ribbon cutting.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for coming in. Thanks for your opinion.
Thank you, appreciate it, guys.
Moving on to Windmill Hill South Trail discussion. So I have a few notes on that. There's not as many people as I was anticipating, which is probably good. I don't want to hash out and go backwards. I'd like to move forward and figure out how to rectify that as best we can. I do have the members of the board have seen it. I don't know if anybody else needs to see it, but most of us have seen it. Have you been out?
Yeah, I did drive by.
Oh, okay.
I delivered hay and drive by.
Okay, so most of us have seen what was done. I have not been back since it was finished. I'm assuming it's finished? Okay.
Yeah, we got the hay on it.
Okay. I have contacted Larry 3 times about the legalities of gates. I have not heard back from him. Any decisions that would be made on anything like that would have to come through the town attorney.
John Todd, Windmill Hill Road South. I think the piece that might not be represented in the minutes here is that we did meet the following morning. Thank you to everybody who came on out, Chuck, Jason, Kevin, Ally. That you guys getting to go onto the site, I think was helped clarify a lot. And we're, since that morning meeting, we've had both weekends, we've had through traffic from the north. This past weekend was 9 vehicles. That was 7 motorcycles, fairly young people on motorcycles, and 2 side-by-sides. And the weekend immediately after, that was the weekend immediately after the meeting up there on the hill. And this past weekend, we turned around 8 motorcycles that came in from the south, still believing that the BDR map that had been drafted, thinking this was class 4, still thinking that was the case. Those motorcycles, had we let them go through, would have had to find an easy time of getting through because the ledge has been torn out. Our concern continues to exist that this is now a passable route, and I believe this needs to be addressed.
Having not heard back from Larry about any gates or anything like that, I can't answer to that this time, but I can see where it would appear that way, that it was more passable. And obviously is, I don't know what the ledges look like.
No.
But if gates helped, it helped, I don't know.
The signs aren't making a difference from the south, and the signs that had been in place on the north, for the most part, don't exist anymore. The sign that says no through traffic is at the junction of Westminster and Putney, but those vehicles come through past that, and by the time they get up to our end of the road, they're seeing a no authorized vehicles sign, and that was put in as a result of this board's decision 2021.
Yeah.
Those signs, I think, are conveying the correct message of just turn around now. It just doesn't happen. I believe that's where we're seeking permission for a gate. Gate there, gate up top.
Yeah, Peter Drucker, Butter. I'm kind of surprised that all those vehicles have gone through there. We put surveillance up after the meeting on Thursday, and in the 2 weeks since, for sure we picked everybody that came through. 3 motorcycles is all we saw. No 4-wheel drive vehicles, 4 tires except for Trina going in. I think he turned around at my landing and went out. Caught that one. That's all we've seen, a couple horses. And that's it on a trail cam. We picked up almost every single hiker, backpacker, everything. I can give you the times of the motorcycles and the horses actually. I got a few of the time stamps here, but I could give them more if you want. So my thing is, I don't think there's a whole lot of people going through there. I think we need to get a baseline. You take some time to figure this out, really see what's going on. You guys need to get some surveillance so you get a timestamp, John. And if it is a problem, then we should do something. But at this point, I don't see it. We're
I
back
thought the
to
motorcycles had kind of slowed.
There was 3 that went
Down
through, and a
after-
gate, if we're gonna do a gate for bikes, the motorcycle's gonna go right through.
There were 7 that went through from the north. I saw them come through. There were 2 side-by-sides, or might have just been quads, but they were set up more with a steering wheel.
Yeah, we didn't see it, so
That was the weekend after we were up there all meeting. And I've got a picture of the tracks coming through, and there's 4-wheel tracks coming through that top. And share that with the board.
That could have been us too, because we didn't go back and forth up there. I also have a letter here from Zach Weinberg, who couldn't make it. And I don't know what he sent me an email and said, could you give this to the board or read it or whatever, I don't know what the protocol. But
I can
give
read it
to
and
you.
enter it into the record.
Yeah, so you can just email me, please bring it in. He's the biggest landowner, he owns 3,000 feet, both sides of the road. His house is right on the trail.
This is from Emily Weinberg, but
Yeah,
Emily and
Emily and
Zach
Zach,
Weinberg, dated July 27, 2022. To the Select Board, Town of Westminster, Vermont, this is Zach and Emily Weinberg of 1304 Windmill Hill Road North. We own 3,000 feet of frontage on both sides of the trail. The town sign on Windmill Hill North states, trail, a public, states, quote, trail, a public highway. The town is not liable for its construction, maintenance, or repair, end quote. When we purchased our property in 1994, we were told by the town manager that it is a public access road and people are allowed to drive on it. At no point have we been notified that the road has been reclassified. Today, there are 7 houses and the Pinnacle parking lot that share the annual road maintenance, and this road is used daily, including weekly school bus trips from local schools. The section of road that we maintain is the same road that continues to Windmill Hill South. Up until his death, Errol Wood maintained the middle of the trail. He put in the culvert and maintained the road. Without Errol Wood, the trail went into disrepair and the culvert stopped working and the road was flooded. Recent improvements on the trail have helped with erosion and made access to our property. We do not want any gates or turnarounds blocking access to the public highway. Motor vehicle usage is very slight and not an issue for us living on the trail. Thank you very much, Zach and Emily Weinberg, July 27th, 2022. That's the culvert they're referring to must be the one that you took out?
Yeah, they're the last house on the.
Technically, they're not on a class 4 road, they're on a trail.
They're on a trail, yeah, well, that's what he said in the sentence.
Which totally blew me away, because I don't remember giving people permission to use the trail, because, I mean, we've let loggers use trails before, and the whole premise was almost take a picture of what it looked like when you started, and just don't improve it, and don't make it worse, put it back in the condition it was. That's always what we're going to be discussing for a while, but to defend a little bit is all the trails we're having problems with motorcycles. It's not just, and the harder you make it for a four-wheeler, you can stop them, but just make it more of a challenge for these motorcycle guys. They just, once they know it's there, I don't know how to stop them sometimes from using it, but we should stop them four-wheelers, that's for sure, from going through there, you know, but I don't know how. But I just know these guys on bike, once they see something and you make it harder and harder to get it up, they want this more of a challenge for them to get around and get it up through it, so. Only thing we've done before in some of the other ones is actually had the sheriff go out and stop, and they're especially in their groups, because they're pretty good about once you stop and tell them you can't do it. You know, it's just to stop the routine of them always going through it.
Thank you for everyone who went out that morning. It's beautiful up there. Really nice to be included. I thought that we might have had a consensus on the possibility, if it's even we have the authority or the right to do so, that parties were in agreement to put gates up. Is that still on the table, or is that off?
I'm hoping it's still on the table. I was intending to come to this meeting and make a formal request for that, because it seemed like there was consensus at the time. I did not proceed. I do have a response to Zach's letter. Zach was actively maintaining a motorcycle group that would once a year at least do a significant motorcycle loop of the area.
But if we put the gate, we're gonna gate off the 7 people, or we're gonna technically put the gate further down?
Well, we can't even do anything until we hear from Larry.
No, I know that, but I'm gonna say, when he's asking for a gate, well, like, technically, where is he even gonna go?
The south side would be fairly easy, I think, where we wouldn't be inhibiting anybody. The north, I guess I don't know if their houses are built on a trail.
The challenge is,
I don't know.
Challenge is if we just put in one gate at the south end, you've got people coming through from the north. They're gonna then be coming down the slope and finding a gate at the bottom of it. It would be, in the bigger arc of this, understanding that Dan has intention of putting in driveway at some time, I think that the gate at the top level should have some consideration as to where driveway plans are for. And any of that process towards building driveway for access to a house up there, I believe should be proceeded through appropriate select board actions and permissions. If a gate is going in up top, it's anticipated there might be some need to move that. Calling it a gate might be a misnomer. We might be looking at 2 posts and a chain, but visibility of that would need to be addressed.
You know, the issue with the gate too is, you know, who's going through the gate, who gets keys to the gate, how wide is it, like with a horse? My sister rides horses up through there. You gotta have 4 or 5 feet, get through a horse, and that means a 4-wheeler could go through there. So, you know, we're gonna get, you know, like I don't like people coming down through my property, so I'm with John, I'm totally with him when we don't want huge motorcycle groups going down there. for 1 or 2 guys a week, or what I saw on my trail cams, possibly we didn't pick everything up, I'm pretty sure we did.
You didn't pick everything.
Yeah, then we didn't get everything, but I think what we need to do is really see, get some good data and some background, what's too much and what's not. We don't have a baseline before we put it together. And I think you need to table anything until you get back from there. And I think you have to ask them some things about what the right of ways were and what's going on there and who pays for the gate. You know, I don't know if the guys outside of Westminster really want to put a gate up, and maybe it should be the people that want the gate should pay for the gate. And we gotta figure out where it goes, and I think there's some right-of-way issues that Zach has a right-of-way on, right to the end of his property, and you could say you can't put a gate till there, then the post is in a wetland if you go that way, there's a lot of issues, and I think you need to table it for a while and get back to me and we go.
I have no intention of taking any action without Larry's blessing. I think we'd be foolish to
Honestly, I've
go on
never
our
been
own.
here, and my totally confused part was when I drove down, we're coming from the north end, and there's the turnaround, Dan, and it says this the turnaround, then there's a sign, no motorized vehicle, and then I'm looking down all these houses. What's the sense of putting a sign there? Because if I was coming in going, well, that sign doesn't mean anything, look at the people that live there. Until you get to the end of where the last person lived, that's where you put a sign saying no more.
Which is Weinberg.
On the south side, we have a no authorized vehicle sign. Is there truly a no motorized vehicle sign?
Yes, they're different signs, John, that's what confused me.
And it's where these people live. So if I was driving, I would have thought that sign must not mean anything, because look at the road, look where people live. Of course they're driving their cars down there. It wasn't until we finally got past the last house that I'm going, okay, really, this is to me now a trail. Somewhere along the line, we're going to have to reclass that road as a class 4, not a trail, because people are living on it. There's no question about it.
Up to where?
Wherever Dan was, that last house, who told me it was the last house.
There was X, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I certainly agree we need clarification on where the class 4 ends. And I think the select board should make it clear that the trail, which has been a rustic trail with intrinsic value of recreational use for walking and bicycling and horse riding, that we should find a mechanism to preserve that trail being essentially a defense against through traffic. The removal of the ledge that was a change of 4 feet of altitude with crags of rock that were causing great difficulty for through traffic. You could not move a 4-wheel drive truck through that at that time. That has been altered, inexplicably altered without permission.
We could put a big boulder back there, they can address it. We can go back to address it. I think just the select board needs to hear back from our attorney. Then I think we gotta come back and go, okay, we gotta fix the north end. We gotta give these people a chance to have a turnaround area, that if you get there, all of a sudden you can't go any further. You gotta give room to turn around and get back, because if you're going down to visit somebody, you realize, oh, I passed the last house. We need to come back to address it as a board.
I had no idea how many houses were beyond.
I was blown away.
The Windmill parking area. I had no idea. I'd never been down there. I never had a need to.
Me either.
That's not beyond the Pinnacle parking area. Zach's is the only house beyond the Pinnacle parking area, Pinnacle Trail parking area.
Isn't there a left?
There's 2 more on the left.
On the left there that,
That's a hook down, not connected.
it's a sure packed driveway off that road. We look, or off that trail. I keep saying road, it's a trail. But I don't remember, there was 2 or 3
But
names.
I believe that turnoff comes before the Pinnacle Trail parking lot. Yeah. So
Either way, we need to figure it out, so.
What's emerging here is there's an issue as to where is the end of the class 4 on the north end that we hadn't brought before this, and now Zach is bringing with his letter.
Yeah.
Separate from the issue of what's happened on the south side of the damage to the existing rustic trail.
Well, when we hear back from Larry, we'll put it back on the agenda and notify you all folks. And
thank you.
We'll move forward.
Thank you.
Thanks. Anything else on Windmill Hill Trail discussion? Moving on, financial position discussion. I thought when we left last meeting, Kevin was gonna get a job description. Want to table that for now?
I'll have that for our next meeting. I want to talk to Allison about a few other things as well.
Thank you. Okay. Then moving on then, new business cemetery deeds. Somebody will have to do those. We have, I think, 3. Pauline was one of, didn't we do Dow last time?
Yeah, we did, we did.
Yeah, she printed 2 copies.
Actually, this is a correction. There was some error in the first deed, so this is a correction. The other 2 are new.
All right.
James Castle is new.
Yep.
Submission for Town of Westminster. Cemetery deed for James Castle, $300.10, and his, unto her heirs and assigns forever one burial site in Section E, Row 3, grave 148, in the Westminster New Cemetery, submitted this 27th day of July, 2022.
Making another motion?
Yes.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the cemetery deed for James Castle as printed. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Guys have it? I'll give that.
Motion to accept the Town of Westminster, County Windham, one burial site for Stephen Cheney, Cheney, Section E, Row 3, grave 115, the Westminster New Cemetery. Submitted for this day, 27th day of July, 2022.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the cemetery plot for, is it Stephen?
Stephen Cheney.
As written. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Ayes have it.
I believe this is a amended or corrected motion to submit amended and corrected cemetery deed on behalf of Benjamin L. and Barbara M. Dow. One burial location located in Section B, Row 14, and bounded on the east by House and on the north by Low, and empty on the west and empty on the south in the Westminster West Cemetery of the Town of Westminster, submitted this day, 27th day of July, 2022.
Motion has been made to it. Motion has been made and seconded to approve the cemetery deed for Benjamin Dow as printed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Town managers report.
I don't have a whole lot. The tax bills went out, as you probably all may know already. So that's off the plate in record time. We had till August 10th to give taxpayers 30 days to receive their bill, so we did well with that for a change. So the only other thing, I had an invitation to town village leaders for a class in Brattleboro on August 3rd from 5:30 to 7:30. It's called Run, Hide, and Fight. I would have to RSVP for you folks if you'd like to go by July 29th. And you have to bring your own food.
I'm out.
Or you can pay $5 to be in their pizza. So that's all I had for you folks. I guess I showed it to Pauline and Patty today to see if they were interested, and they had already taken it. It was done right in town hall. I don't know if I put that on, but someone did. Any interest, let me know.
What was it then?
Say again?
August 3rd?
August 3rd, 5:30 to 7:30.
Thanks, Alan.
You want to play ball? Want to fight?
All right, thank you. C, executive session.
Make a motion to move to executive session to discuss two contractual matters. Two regarding employment, both separate.
I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded to go into executive session for employee contractual matters.
Under the discussion, we're only, the select board is coming in.
Correct.
Only the select board?
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's what just asked.
That will be after other business.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Craig, did you second it? I'm sorry.
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
Boards, committees, and commissions.
I just, because you have the asterisk that it can be voted on, because Paul Bannock left, the ARPA chair, he did ask you folks if you would be willing to okay the ARPA postcard going out, to get community input.
I'll make a motion to approve the ARPA postcard that was referenced by Paul Bannock as the chair of the ARPA committee. Is that adequate?
Oh, sorry, hold on,
Pauline?
Go ahead, Pauline.
Sorry.
No, I'm fine, I just, if you need any further information, I can speak to that, but no, I think he was just looking for approval.
I'll make the motion to so do so.
Normally, we don't vote on any money issue that wasn't warned, but I don't have a problem with it. Because-
Well, and I was going to add that I was approved $20,000 for my ARPA projects with the online records, et cetera. I would be willing to take that money. I still have $13,000 and change. I have some equipment that I'm going to be requisitioning, but I could easily pay for that postcard out of my $20,000 that I was approved.
Amended motion to include your comments.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the ARPA committee postcards. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
I took ARPA money to pay for ARPA.
They should pay for it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sorry, are you all set, Pauline?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anything else, boards, committees, and commissions? Moving on, other business. Any other business at this time?
Why is it so quiet? This is good.
All right. Seeing no other business, date of the next meeting, August 10th, 2022. And with that, we will go into executive session.
August, wait. I'm not going to be here this week.
August 10th.
Can we move it one more week further out?
I have an ARPA meeting that Wednesday.
Does that mean stuff?
On the third.
All right.
No, wait. What date is it?
I go day to day, so a month out is, I don't, makes no difference to me.
What?
August 10th, where they're asking about.
What's the matter?
Well, we still have a
I'm
forum for one,
Right.
so.
I'd like it to be just one in August if we can
I don't want to say if
squeeze that through.
I'm just gone that week, but the following week I'll be here. So if we move it one more week, we'll be in the middle of the month, but whatever.
It's your call, we just gotta warn it.
Yeah, you're not gonna.
August 10th will be the only meeting, right?
Open.
So August 10th, fine with me.
You're not gonna move it, you're gonna.
We'll stick with August 10th.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be there. As long as you guys
Jason, you
show up.
We want
Well,
to
man.
schedule that.
They're in my truck, I do, yep.
Do you wanna just,
So I can slide yours into the door. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have them in my truck. I have a key to this one too.
Take that.
All right,
Just pop that on his desk. I'll lock you guys in right now. You're good.
hold that door.
The downstairs door. I'll lock you in.
Okay,
Okay?
all right.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we're gonna stick with August 10th, 2022. Yes.
So you're going into executive session.
We're gonna go into executive session, yeah. Stop recording? Yes, please.
Recording stopped.
All right. Thank you. Did you get everything off these?
I